Okay, guys. As far as the last game, the value of it's the same as all games. Makes us 1-0. And the good thing about the first game is that we say every year that each team is different. You got different guys out there, even with a lot of returning starters. Just a few pieces here and there may be different. And you find out those guys' strengths and weaknesses, the things you need to improve on, which we've got a pretty good list of, but that's pretty standard for the first game of the year. And the biggest thing is that our guys were relentless in their effort. I thought we tackled well. We had a big emphasis. We had gone from real high 2 years ago in red zone defense. Last year it dropped some spots. And, that's just a few plays in red zone defense. Just a few plays in a year will drop you considerably. And so we challenged them with that to be better in red zone. And obviously when you're there 6 times, that's a few too many times. But when you're there 6 times and they score 1 touchdown, obviously they've taken the challenge pretty seriously. But we played a very, very, very good football team, very talented football team. And the best thing is that we came out with a victory.
What did you see out of Big Cat last night and just what he was able to do for you from start to finish?
Yeah. Well, Big Cat Bryant is a talented young man. Last year there was a little bit of a transition for him, as there will be for a freshman, but he worked hard in the weight room, got bigger and stronger. And he kind of his body type kind of fits the buck position. He's really kind of taken to it. He's a good pass rusher, but he's also good in coverage. We can drop him a little bit more in coverage than we've been able to do, and so he fits the position very well.
TD, just some discipline issues with the penalties and everything. Had to play him a little bit less, and something he can get corrected.
Well, we have to get corrected. The penalties, obviously, the biggest thing, the tail of the whole game, as far as the defense, was 3 things: us in the red zone, and then extending drives with penalties, and we had a few miscues on playing the deeper ball. They didn't knock the top off the coverage for a touchdown, but they did have the throw and catch. And now I will say this: there's a couple of those that why they call Browning the most accurate quarterback return in college football. He threw press a ball, but those are the things that really we've got to clean up quick. But TD's a talent. He will. He's very coachable, so we can get that cleaned up.
Kevin, how did your linebackers play for you?
Well, they played. We played 3 linebackers in some sets, and they played. I thought they played well. Obviously, we had. I think 2 runs that kind of popped, not big, but popped. Minus those 2 runs, it was pretty tough sledding. And so that's because those guys in the box are doing their job. You got to be in your gap.
I know you've talked before about how the worst thing that happens is allowing someone to score right before halftime and then right out of the locker room. And Washington scored right before halftime. What were you thinking? What were you saying at halftime?
Well, pretty frustrated in terms of that happening. Anytime they score in a 2-minute drive before half, that's frustrating. But it was all correctable stuff. It wasn't anything to panic on. It wasn't not lack of effort, lack of focus. It wasn't any of those things. Just a few things we had to correct.
When Fuller was clearly the leading receiver coming in, Kevin, and you knew that they were going to target him a lot.
Right.
And they targeted 12 times to get to him 7, so it's nearly 50-50, but nevertheless 7 for 130.
Right.
How did you feel about the coverage on him for the night?
Well, obviously, if he catches 7 balls for 130, that's a little bit more than you want. But, we had good coverage on him a lot of times. A lot of times had good coverage on him. And then we had a couple of times where the quarterback really delivered a very, very, very catchable ball and hard to defend. And then we had some things where the issue, and everybody wants to talk about the top end of it, the issue on those, every single one of them except one, every one of them but one, the issue occurred in the first 3 steps of the down, not on the back end. If you don't win it, if you don't win the first 3 steps of the down, it's hard to play the back end. And you know, you let things get out on top of you, now you get in a foot race.
Kevin, you talked about depth in the secondary. It got tested pretty good with you know, Javaris getting banged up. And
Yeah.
Jabel already. What was it like there late in the game? With you got Smoke on the field, all
Yeah.
those guys.
Next guy up, we practiced that way. Yeah, I think the last time I was in there, I told you that we practiced, you know, so guys not being in there and rotating guys. We practiced a good bit, really, more than probably I've ever done in terms of practicing for, okay, this guy's out, this guy's in, and rotating them. So, hey, you just go.
How did Nick Coe play? How did Nick Coe play against Washington? Nick Coe.
Nick was actually the most productive guy in terms of production points. He had the most production points, not by a long way. Darryl and Daniel were right there close to him, but those 3 were considerably higher than the 4th guy. But Nick was very productive. Probably in my mind, everybody's got their own opinion, but in my mind, probably the biggest play in the game was the speed option, in which Nick knocked the ball loose, and they got no points out of that. That was huge.
He said that was something that they had done a couple times before, something he knew. He was maybe a little bit timid the time before, but he knew to go after it that time.
Well, no, they had not run the speed option before.
He said it was an RPO that he had noticed.
Yeah, well, that wasn't an RPO, that was a speed option.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but
All we need to know.
that's all right. He played it good. We're good. We're good.
I know the difference, but he just said that he felt like he knew it was going to come.
Yeah. Well, you know, Nick's so long armed. We kind of laughed about it in the meeting. I mean, he has to friction the tackle as the tackle blocks down. Then the quarterback's in his face, so he's got to take the quarterback. Well, Nick's one of the few guys that we got that can friction the tackle with one hand, take the pitch man with the other hand, and take the quarterback in the middle, which is pretty much the way it looked. You know.
Kevin, one quick question. You said you had a long list of things you want to work on. What are 2 or 3 of those main things?
Well, what we talked about, you know, the first 3 steps of the down in some of our coverage, and then the top end of things of being, you know, in position, and then the mechanics of how to get in phase, which we've worked on a bunch. We've seen it a lot. It just got real bullets getting fired. And so, you know, we got to clean it up. It's not the same as practice. And so the top end of the route and, you know, defending the defender and playing the ball, then, you know, probably the biggest thing in terms of those are the things that pop out the most. And then the penalties, you know, the penalties are going to happen. We want to be, you know, our goal is to be the least penalized team in this league. But, you know, obviously there's going to be penalties. But, it's the first time I've ever seen an umpire call pass interference. 39 years. That was a first.
Yeah, Kevin. Noah, first time he's ever played corner in a true game. What did you see out of him?
He's got a lot of talent, got a tremendous upside, and really had a lot of good snaps. A lot of good snaps.
Kevin,
Okay.
Leslie, you talked about on the radio last night about the blitz at the end on the 4th down.
Yeah.
In the offseason, you'd mentioned about making those adjustments of things that when the offense is struggling and whatnot, things that you guys can do. Was that at all part of the thing? You explained the thinking last night about the timing and whatnot that went into
Yeah.
it. Because the offense had struggled a bit, particularly in the second half, was part of your thinking, we need to win this?
No, you're not going to get me to say that now. It was the clock, any offense. I mean, how much time do you have if they score a touchdown to drive down the field? I mean, there's a lot of difference in having 30 seconds in a 2-minute drive and having 1 minute and 41 seconds in a 2-minute drive. You know, it wasn't that pressure on 4th down. It's a 4th down call late, you know, to win the game. It is. But that much time left, there's a little bit of question. And so it was like what I said. I mean, it was okay. Do we let this thing take a chance of bleeding a little bit, or do we end it right now? And let's end it right now.